I'm honored to do it alongside our ally and my counterpart in Israel in leading that effort. Welcome to day 14 of the Democrat government shutdown. It's 2 weeks of Democrats in Congress inflicting untold pain on the American people for nothing other than pure politics, as we've explained at this podium every day of the shutdown. Today, Senate Democrats will have their 8th chance to end this mess by passing our clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, the government funding bill that would end all of this immediately. Over 3 weeks ago, the House passed that bill, and you all know the details of it. It is completely clean. There are no policy changes, no partisan riders, no gimmicks or tricks at all. All it does is keep the lights on at the current funding levels for a few extra weeks while we complete the normal appropriations process. Now compare that to the Democrats' counterproposal. They're demanding $1.5 trillion in new spending paid for by American taxpayers. And I want you to be specific. I want us to be specific. I want you to note what that counterproposal includes, because we've not yet gone into all the details of it, because it's large and very absurd. But here's some of the highlights of this. It would reverse common sense reforms that Republicans made in the Working Families Tax Cut that keep illegal aliens off taxpayer-funded health care. This is a fact. Page 57, Section 2141 of their counterproposal, as we've been posting everywhere. And it would, they would add the illegal aliens, non-citizens, back to taxpayer-funded benefits. It would cost taxpayers nearly $200 billion. They would also remove a very reasonable and modest work requirement that we put on able-bodied young men with no dependents. As we've said, they should not be riding the wagon and taking Medicaid. That is intended for vulnerable populations, the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, for example, and not young able-bodied men without dependents who are playing video games. We put that into the law because it's common sense. Their counterproposal would reverse that, so taxpayers would be funding them again. They would make in their counterproposal permanent COVID-era Obamacare subsidies without any income caps or any other reforms at all. They would make that permanent. That would cost taxpayers an estimated $358 billion. They would take away the $50 billion that we put into the law to support rural hospitals. They would remove that. And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI+ democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that. These are unserious proposals from unserious people, and they are playing games while real Americans are being harmed adversely by the shutdown. Yesterday, I read you an excerpt from President Obama's speech during the 2013 shutdown when he advocated for a clean CR to reopen the government and resume negotiations. It sounded very familiar. Democrats cheered him on back then, including Chuck Schumer. He himself said some Republicans' refusal to support a clean CR back then was, quote, the politics of idiocy. Take him at his word. So yesterday we decided to do a little count of the number of times that Chuck Schumer has supported continuing resolutions just since he became the leader of the Democrats in the Senate in 2017. That number came out to 29 out of 30 continuing resolutions. That's how many times he wholeheartedly, enthusiastically supported CRs enacted into law. That's a 97% support rate. What's changed? Well, this time his job is on the line. And we've explained this very clearly because everybody can see the obvious political motivation here behind his decision to shut the government down right now. He helped us avert a shutdown in March by doing the right thing and supporting virtually the identically same continuing CR that we're offering today. And his radical base went crazy, and they haven't forgiven him for it. That's why Chuck Schumer is